Hey there, welcome to Burnout to Thriving, the podcast where we toss perfection out the window and embrace the beautiful chaos of being a woman in a patriarchal world. I'm Cecilia Mannella, your therapist and coach, who's here to help you go from burnt out, stressed, and overwhelmed to empowered and thriving, all without pretending life isn't messy. Each week, we'll chat about the ups, the downs, the real moments of redefining success on your own terms. This is your permission slip to ditch the pressure of perfection. So grab your favorite drink, coffee, tea, water, or maybe a little bit of wine, and join me for honest conversations about what it really means to thrive in this real messy world. Are you ready? Let's do it. Hello and welcome to Burnout to Thriving podcast. If you're here and you've been here for a while, you know this is a little bit of a rebrand. And if you're new, welcome to this space where we will be diving into all things that lead to burnout in our lives and really discussing what it means to thrive in this super messy, unpredictable world that we live in. I know that I might lose a little followers with this rebrand and this focus on working with women. And I'm hoping I'll regain some listeners that really want to dive into what it means to be a woman in the world and the musings around burnout and the challenges and being overwhelmed. And what does it actually mean to thrive? And really live the life that you deserve to have, calling bullshit on all the, pressures of perfection. And I hope this is a conversation that we can have every single week where we engage with each other and really change how you show up in your life. This podcast is meant to be a conversation. I don't have a ton of fancy equipment and it's just really me. And I hope that you really enjoy the perspective that I share, my insights, my critical analysis, let's say, and calling out some of the absolute garbage double standards that we live under because I want you to thrive and live the best life you can possibly have. I thought the best way to launch this rebrand of this podcast is to dive into like my favorite topic, which is boundaries. But I want to tell you that the boundary episodes from, the podcast are the most listened to, the most downloaded episodes ever. So clearly, boundaries is a really big topic. And I really want to spend time with you addressing this. I don't think it's a one and done. I don't think it gets done in one episode. I think it's an ongoing conversation as the world changes and as we show up differently. And what I want from you is I want you to start ditching these scripts of the perfect woman. And I want you to rewrite the rules on what it means to be a woman who thrives, what it means to be a woman who has boundaries, what it means to be a woman in the world and your world. I want you to rewrite these. And that takes a little bit of time. This conversation is a starting place. Boundaries are really tricky in that they are constantly moving and ebbing and flowing. If you've heard my podcast episode before on boundaries, you know that I see them as an expression of love and care because boundaries allow us to be close to people without sacrificing ourselves. And I really want you to think about that. Boundaries allow us to be close to people without self sacrificing. Now, growing up in this world and this culture, being a woman in the patriarchal world, self sacrifice is actually something that women are really told to do a lot. We are expected to be selfless. We're expected to put our needs last. It is how moms are revered and women are revered, is how selfless and how caring they are and how much they give all the time with no regard for what it means to take care of yourself. We go from saying yes to everything and everyone else, and we don't say yes to ourselves. We actually put ourselves last. And I want to move towards you saying yes to you, to yourself, and creating boundaries that actually really work. Now, I know what's true is that guilt is that sneaky little bastard that shows up and tries to take you off the course of setting boundaries. Now, I want you to think about guilt, and think, what is this about? And I'm going to admit to you a little bit of my own messy moment. Now, I have really good boundaries, I would say. I'm not perfect because nothing is about perfection, but I know that I'm really good at it. It's taken me years and decades to get to a place where I have fairly good boundaries. And you got to realize, like, I teach about boundaries, I talk about boundaries, I write about boundaries, I talk a lot about boundaries. And even I'm not perfect at it. And my messy moment confession that I'm sharing with you, it actually just happened this past weekend where I was having a conversation with my partner, and my partner and I don't live together. And what came out of my mouth was an apology. I said, I'm sorry. And it's really strange for me to kind of have a sorry that kind of comes out. It's an old behavior to basically apologize for my own existence. And he looked at me and he said, what are you saying sorry for? He's like, should I apologize for not living in the same community as you? Like, should I apologize that I live 40 minutes away? And I was like, no. And he's like, so you have nothing to apologize for. And it was this messy moment where I realized I'd fallen back into good girl behavior, this kind of peddling to somebody else, feeling like I'm responsible for everything or feeling like I'm responsible for someone else's challenges, let's say. And so I love that he called me out on it because I laughed and said, you're right. I take my sorry back, actually. I retract my sorry and I don't mean it. And we laughed about it a bit. And it kind of just reminded me that no, it doesn't matter how much work we've done, how much we read, and how much like content we consume, and how advanced we are in the healing that we do with our own potential traumas, or just the socialization of all the expectations of what it means to be this perfect woman and the perfect girl and have the good girl personality, is that that stuff still's there. It doesn't go away. And there's friction between this programming we've had and the woman we want to be. And that can create some friction. And I want you to have permission to embrace the messiness of it, that it isn't perfect. And in fact, you can be an amazing boundary setter and have moments where you just kind of blip and go back to that good girl, to wanting to be loved and liked. And it's really important to be people pleasing in order to be in relationship or be connected. I want you to know that this is messy and it is not a linear trajectory towards growth. This is, we slip back. I slip back. You slip back. Everybody slips back. And the power is in recognizing it. The second that sorry came out of my mouth, I knew that it was rooted in people pleasing and being that, idea of what it means to be the perfect woman. And I am grateful to have a partner who called me out on it. And I'm grateful that I noticed it. And I'm grateful I'm sharing it with you because I want it to give you permission to be messy. Now, how were you trained to being the perfect woman? How were you trained in being the good girl? How were you trained into being selfless to the point that it's self-sacrificing, to the point where it harms you? We all have our own journey through this. And everyone's stories, they're going to be a little bit different and they're going to be unique based on where you were born, what your family construct was, race, our economics of our family, opportunities around us, faith, communities or not. Like there's all these influences that really kind of make our stories unique and different. But there's an overarching commonality between all of us, is that we are women in a patriarchal world that teaches us how to be good girls. And it teaches us that what it means to be a perfect woman. And the underlying messages around there is really about not having boundaries, not having needs, not having wants, not having desires, not having dreams, that those are all relegated to men or to the boys. They're allowed to have them, but women are not. We watch this mimicked in relationships when we're little. We watch the adults in our life live out what is expected. We watch our moms, our aunties, our grandmothers live into this a little bit, some more than others. Sometimes we're lucky and we get a role model that teaches us that we can step out of that we can be disruptive in the way that we show up in the world. And I want you to really consider how you were taught these things. And it matters. It matters how you were taught this. Was it taught to you by your mother, by your auntie, by your grandmother, or was it taught to you by observing the men in your life or the absence of men in your life? So our journey through this is different, but the messages we received are very similar, that we don't have needs, and that if we do have needs, we get called needy, which is somehow being looked down on. But we're human, and all humans have needs, for crying out loud. We all have needs. We have the basic needs of housing and water and food and shelter, but we also have other needs. We have need for connection and love and laughter and joy and fulfillment. And we have a need sometimes to be ambitious. We have a need to be a leader or an entrepreneur, or we want to be creative. There's all these needs that we have that go untapped because we're too busy pleasing others or trying to get approval from others. So, boundaries sometimes get presented as this very simple equation of saying no and how to say no. But there's an underlying story that is actually much more important to tap into, because when you tap into how you were trained into being or taking on the role of good girl, the perfect woman, the roles that you take on, these masks that we put on, you discover something about yourself. You kind of dig a little deeper and you find you. You find that girl that had all the dreams. You find the girl that was disruptive. You find the girl that maybe wanted to be different. You find the girl that had a little bit of a rebel spirit about her. You find something when you trace back this story. Now, this is something that happens in therapy. This is something that happens in coaching, is where we kind of find out where the story originates from. And why is that important? Is because you and me and everybody else on this planet is a mix up of all the stories of our life. Humans are a narration. We narrate the story of our lives. And in that narrative, we take away meaning and we create that meaning for identity. You can do this work by journaling. You can do this work by spending some time thinking about this and exploring it and coming to terms with where you learned how to be that good girl, where you got that perfect woman persona from, because we need to ditch it. There's a friction between that mask and who you truly are. And in that friction, that is where overwhelm is, that's where burnout is, that's where unsatisfaction, depression, anxiety, all these things exist, is in this friction between who you mask up to be and who you truly are. And boundaries are about getting really up close and personal with yourself, with your values of who you are, and setting boundaries from that place. Not setting boundaries because you should, not setting boundaries because someone told you to. It's not about that. It's about setting the boundaries from a place of where your values are. Knowing that it's not going to be perfect, knowing that it's going to be super messy. And even when you feel like you have arrived somewhere, like there's no boundary land where you get a degree in boundaries and get a gold star and walk around with it. This is something we're always working on, because this social programming is so deeply embedded, we cannot get rid of it. But we can do is become aware of it, and we can challenge it, and we can address it when it shows up. And that's where your power is knowing when it shows up, what triggers it, what brings it forward, and what to do about it. It isn't a simple equation. It's a little bit messy, and that's okay. I want you to think about, who do you want to be? When you think about the future version you, I want you to think 5 years ahead, maybe 10 years ahead. And I want you to really connect with her. What is she doing with her life? Who's she hanging out with? What are her friends like? What does she wear? Where is she living? What is she driving? What kind of foods does she like to eat? Where does she hang out? Does she love to travel? Where is she going? What does her financial security look like? What are the quality of her relationships? Does she have kids, and what are they doing? I want you to really root into a future you, like a future you far enough ahead that you can visualize what she's like and what she's doing. Who's she hanging out with? What is she reading? What is she listening to? How does she spend her time? What is she doing for her own health and wellness? What's happening with her? I want to know all the things about what is happening to this future version, this future you. When you connect with her and she's living the life you want, I want you to write it down. I want you to really own it. I want you to spend some time journaling about what it is that this future version of you is like. What do you like about her? What do you admire about her? What is she able to do that you feel you can't in this moment, or that there's a barrier in the way to be who you want to be? And maybe the barrier is I spend too much money, or I don't exercise, or I'm drinking too much wine, or I shop too much. I want to know what the barriers are that you see once you've figured out who it is this future version of you is. Once you've done that, I want you to really ask yourself this question. If you could talk to her and you could ask her to give you some advice on your current situation, I want you to consult her. What would she say to you about what's currently happening in your life? What would she say about the current challenges? What would she say about your hopes, your dreams, your wants? What would she say about the current life you're living, the choices you're making, the boundaries you have or don't have? What would she say about your relationships? What would she say about what you're accepting? What would she say about it? If you could consult her and you could use the wisdom of the future you of 5, 10 years down the road, what wisdom would she share with you? What would she say about you that you don't know yet? Or what would she say about you that you've kind of forgotten? What does she know about you? What does she know about your abilities, your strengths, your areas of growth? What would she say about the woman you're going to become? What would she say about your career, maybe business decisions you're making, leadership decisions that you're making? What would she say? Because this future version of you, it is the greatest resource you have. We don't have to look outside of us for guidance or for a mentorship necessarily. I mean, it's great to have that. But most of the time, we're missing that we have so much of that inside of ourselves already. Part of the impact of growing up in a world that is male focused and that values masculinity over femininity is that we've cut off parts of ourselves that feel woo woo or feel too girly or just doesn't fit into this kind of masculine description. And I want you to reconnect with that, because reconnecting with our future versions of ourselves is really connecting to this inner knowledge, wisdom, intuitiveness that you have about you. You already know. It's the noise that's becoming distracting to you. You already know. You already know where to set boundaries. You already know which relationship is the most troubling and challenging for you. You already know where you want to say no, but you're saying yes to. You already know what and who is depleting your energy. You already know who's toxic and abusive in your life, or the situations that might be toxic in your life. You already know. You already know all this. And so you can consult the future you that is living the life that you dream of. She's there. You can tap into her at any point. This is how you start to say yes to yourself. This is how you connect to the greater piece of boundaries. It's not just about saying no in the moment or no to a relationship or creating some limitations. What this is saying yes to you. And saying yes to you is not just yes in this moment. Saying yes to you is much bigger than that. It's saying yes to my needs, yes to my desires about what I want for myself. It's saying yes to the dreams I have. It's saying yes to the life that I know I want to live, that I dream of, that I deserve to have, because I'm willing to do the work to get there. It's saying yes to things that you're passionate about and creative about, even if it doesn't fit in this perfect persona that you're trying to have. And in fact, saying yes to you means you're ditching that perfect persona. You're ditching this perfect woman, this good girl, this people pleaser, whoever she is, you are ditching her so you can actually say yes to you, because you are not the creator of the good girl. You are not the creator of the persona of a perfect woman. That is not you. You didn't create that. That was given to you, gifted to you, shoved down your throat, told you that was the only way to get connection and love and affirmation and recognition from people. That is not who you are authentically inside of yourself, in your heart, in your mind of who you are. That's not who you are. That was given to you, and then we perform it because it's rewarding to perform it. Like, there's no lying here. There's tons of reward for performing it. But it comes with a cost. It's a reward on the front end, but there's a cost on the back end. The cost is you. And the reward might be some accolades, it might be some recognition, there might be some rewards around there, but it costs you, because I have lived that too. And I see it every single day with the woman that I work with, that they pay the price and they want to stop paying the price. And that comes with saying yes to you. And that's yes to your dreams, to your desires, to your wants, to your needs, to what you want. So I want you to consult the future you. And I want you to take wisdom from her and advice from her, because she's really wise. I mean, she's living the life that you want. So if anyone can show you the path there, that's her. It's the future you. Ask her some questions. I know that this might sound really weird, but trust me when I tell you that this is an incredible step forward. If you're already in therapy, please bring this up. If you are working with a coach, also bring this up. This is really, really important. If you're not in therapy and you're not working with a coach, you can just grab a journal and you can do this. And connecting to this part of you is going to be absolutely incredible. This resource never goes away. You don't have to work really hard to connect with her. Once you've described this future you, where she is and what she's doing, it becomes so easy to connect with her, to consult her. And boundaries become a little bit easier. They're not so hard to come up against. So this is about moving away from saying yes to everything and finally saying yes to you, because you deserve it. You have been putting up way too much energy and saying yes to everybody else. And it's time to ditch the perfect woman script, the good girl script, and we're rewriting the rules around what it means to thrive as a woman in the world, because you deserve to thrive and you deserve to have everything that you dream of. You may not get it all in the same moment, but you deserve to be moving in that direction and deciding the course on your own terms and not trying to follow or fulfill a path that's been given to you or told you that, or someone's told you that this is the only way. Because let me tell you, there's not just one way to anything. And oftentimes the way that we're told to get where we want to go is not been told by women. It's been given us and adapted from a male perspective. And that's great for them. Like, men need their way. I'm not saying that doesn't have value. What I'm saying is it's time for you to decide your own way forward. And that is messy, because life is just messy, and that's okay. So we're saying yes to me. We're saying yes to everything that you want. You're saying yes to the future you deserve. You're saying yes to you way more often. Thank you for joining for today's conversation. I'd love to hear more from you. You can shout me out on social media or leave a comment on the podcast. Would love to hear from you. Thank you for joining me today and being part of this amazing conversation. And I will see you next week on the Burnout to Thriving podcast.